Okay. Anyways, glad we got that out. All right, let's move on to probably why you're listening to the podcast this week. The WVU fan experience. Well, the Penn State fan experience in the WVU game, I guess, is the best way to put this segment. Um, I have a ton of notes, Steve. I have thought about this a lot. I've seen and read a lot of reactions. So let's start. Let's start. Let's get after it. I'm gonna start with the food. I think that is where I'm gonna start. Stadium food feels better elevated. Lines were a little bit longer because I think there's less options for the general places. A good problem, not complaining. Good problem to
Mhm.
have. We got French fries from the Wing Zone place. They were excellent. They were incredible. Now they
Incredible fries.
yes, they did like they weren't sitting a little well on the stomach a little later on in the evening, but that's probably just from previous food eaten and then being
So it's
capped
not
off
the
with
fries' fault.
yeah, it was not the
They were
fries
excellent
fault.
start to finish, and it wasn't their fault.
Um, highly recommend the Wing Zone. I want to go back there, and I still haven't tried Caliente pizza, and I've heard everybody tells me that that's good. So that was a big takeaway that the food does feel like it's getting better. I do like there was a little bit more regional options. It was noticeable when you walk by a stand. Like I didn't get food there, but I got drinks from a stand that was a barbecue stand that hadn't recognized. It was like from one of the farm to table or New Holland farm to table or farm to stadium meal things. So that was good. That was good. Um, let's talk about the announcing, the play by play. I at first when I was thinking about this, I was giving it a solid B. I think a solid like 84 B. Like just like that's and it's not the announcer's fault. It is the way the game was announced that bothered me. There was little to no down and distance except later in the game when I actually caught that on the way, listened back or watch back, I guess. There was on when Penn State was on defense, no narration, no nothing. No, it was just Johnny Dixon on the tackle. Or or Abdul Carter. That was it. And it just felt not good. And it is not to Joe. Like Joe did a great job. Joe sounded really good. It was the fact that it just felt like that was being done on purpose and it felt awkward and weird and it felt like an overcorrection for I think a lot of people's gripe with Dean in previous years. If I'm a fan at a football game, somebody that cares about what's happening on the field, which is probably 70% of the stadium,
I
I
was
would
waiting to
say.
hear what that number was going to be. Okay, go ahead.
I want to hear how many yards the what previous play went for, or how many yards are left to gain a first down, who caught it, who ran it, who broke it up, who made the tackle. That is what I want to hear. And I was not consistently hearing that. And I think that is my biggest gripe with that new aspect of the game day production, so to speak. The other gripes, the other things I will say, they're not necessarily gripes. If they're going to do it that way, that's fine. So be it. It definitely felt like it was on purpose that the WVU players weren't getting announced. Bizarre, don't understand it, but whatever, fine. If you're going to do it that way, your scoreboard operator has to be bang, 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 bang. And it was not. It was slow. It was just not good. Like it was sometimes the play would start and that's when the down and distance would update. And it was just kind of unacceptable if you're not going to get down and distance from the announcer. So that was my major other gripe with kind of the whole announcing game flow situation. I think would be the best way to say it. So there's that. I will say pre-game, there's a newer game flow, and it feels much smoother and less clunky.
Okay.
Pre-game flow, and it. I think you would have liked the mic ban, Steve. There
Uh-oh.
was no like awkward, weird speech before the mic ban. It was just like we're going to show the mic man and we're going to say, are you ready for Penn State football? And everybody joined in on it. And I think you would have liked it. I think you would have liked it.
Well, I got to say, maybe I would have, but I'm already on to loyal listener and longtime friend of Darian and Steve, semi-friend acquaintance Matty Pryor's idea for let's get a guest doing that. You sign me up for a guest / celebrity to say, "Are you ready for Penn State football?" I'm sold. In fact, I'm already sold now. Like, so if those of you that are listening are close to power, what we want is someone, what I want is someone other than the mic man
What
to say,
Steve
"Are you ready
what
for Penn State
Steve
football?"
wants.
Is someone other than the mic man. I want like a guest, an astronaut, some Penn State alum, a guy from the NFL, Micah Parsons if he's there, whatever else. People would love that shit, and there's enough of those people over 7 games a year to get good for the next 10 years, and people won't be tired of who it was.
How did you put it? How did you put it into me when you sent it to me text form?
I don't
You
know. I think I
remember?
said people would get behind this. Did I say more
Well,
than
no,
that?
you said it would be like the Chicago Cubs take me out to the ball game.
It would be like the Chicago Cubs taking out the ball game. It'd be like the Seattle
12th
Seahawks
man.
11th man, 12th man flag. It'd be all that stuff. And it'd be great. It'd be better than, and this is my only nitpick, and I'm getting ahead and I'll jump back. It would be better than the NBC Saturday Night Football drum. That's just the silliest thing in the world. I know they're going to do it every week. It's just silly. I do think the announcers were right. Like, you're right. That was the plan. Someone decided we're going to produce this event this way. To not mention the opponents is just silly. They do it on social media, both, and I know because my class did the content this week. Both West Virginia and Penn State, when they did social media stuff, like, don't acknowledge the other team's scoring when they do updates on social media. It's like, oh, the other team just magically scored. This stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Especially in front of the 107,000 people in front of you. Tell us who the kid was. It's okay. Like, I still have in my head from Chicago games, it was the Northwestern running back. And I thought his name was the ball carrier because he carried the ball so many times, right? Like, and it was just, I don't know. And they acknowledged the Penn State people years ago when they did that. I mean, 9 years ago, 5 years ago. So I think that piece of production, I think the people who do it almost think they're smarter than everyone else and say, hey, we're going to do this thing. And there's a flow, there's a practice, there's a tradition. How about we just do that and do it clean and do it well and not try to get cute? And it's the first game every year this stuff happens. They try something different or whatever. It's like they have forgotten how to do football games until they play a game or two each season.
That was how I felt about it. It really felt first game. So that B grade, I'm gonna bump it down to a C plus, I think, at this point. And again, I think Joe did a great job, especially because he had to fill in for Rodney. If you listen to our episode a few weeks back, we interviewed both Joe and Rodney. Joe Putnam was supposed to do in-between type things, and Rodney was supposed to do the game narration. But Rodney actually got COVID this week. He'll be back, it sounds like, for Delaware. Glad he's happy and healthy. But again, it didn't feel right. And it's like, why reinvent the wheel when the wheel does not need to be touched? Like, if you go listen to, like, I went and listened to like a couple other games, every other stadium in the country does it this way. Like, it's not cute or unique. It's a bad part of the fan experience for people that, like you and me, that care about what happens on the field. We want to know. The other thing that I was thinking about is, like, we sit in the corner of the end zone, right? So we sit in the away sideline corner down at that end zone. It is impossible once the ball gets past the 40-yard line to tell if it's an 8-yard carry or a 4-yard carry. Mm-hmm. I need to know that as a fan so that I can be more or less stressed out, essentially. Like, it is.
Well, you're not alone. Everybody has a sight line that's not great. I mean, there's a decent percentage of people in the stadium who have a sight line somewhere that's not great, right? Or it's pretty far away, and it would be helpful to know what the official number is and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and I think the other thing that we haven't talked about, and I know I'm pretty sure it didn't happen, again, not in there, so you can correct me. Like, if I would come to the Michigan game or whatever game it is, whatever big game it is, I have no desire to get loud and raucous on whatever thing they decide to do on third down for a big game that they didn't do for third down on this game. Because I think if you're going to be consistent, if you want to play the Jaws music and whatever it is on third down and get people geeked, you do it every down of every game so your fans know what to do. We go to Alabama, first down, Alabama, crowd yells Roll Tide, right? Like, you getting people into a routine and a consistent thing. And I just don't, the only thing that seems consistent is they're going to play that Don't Do Me Wrong song or whatever it is when there's a referee's official.
Oh, Tell Me Something Good. Is that what you're thinking?
Tell Me Something Good. Yeah, stop it. Like, I mean, it's great, but it's just like, I mean, that's the only thing they're consistent about, and it's a whiny consistency. You're screwing me over. Tell me something good. That's the one thing that's consistent about Penn State's game presentation is that.
Let's stick there with the music. I wanted a little more blue band. Didn't hear a ton of the blue band this weekend. But that's also just because I'm a little blue band biased. I love the blue band. My biggest gripe with the entire game day production is I think it was in the third quarter. Penn State. I think Penn State was after like maybe the one of the touchdowns that really felt like the nail in the coffin. I think maybe the Malik McLean touchdown. And somebody decided to play jump around. And I don't know why jump around should ever be played in any Big Ten stadium ever. It is
Except for
it is
one stadium.
Wisconsin. Yeah, it is Wisconsin's thing. No other school in the Big Ten uses Zombie Nation the way Penn State uses Zombie Nation. Let Wisconsin have jump around. It should not have been played in Beaver Stadium. That is not I hate Wisconsin. They're very nice people, great campus, beautiful stadium. Highly recommend you go there. It is that's somebody else's tradition. Let them have it thing. Like,
Could not agree more. Just no place should never ever have been on somebody's button to press. Shouldn't show up in the rotation ever. Not ours, theirs. Sweet Caroline is different. Everybody does it now, but especially in college football, jump around is theirs. Leave them.
Well, and Penn State owns Zombie Nation essentially. It was brought to America through Penn State. Even Seven Nations Army also brought to America through Penn State.
Yep.
Like we have those.
Prayer,
we don't need those.
A little bit.
What's that?
Living on a prayer, probably a little bit.
Probably a little bit. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. It felt so out of place and so bizarre. There are 20,000 other stadium songs you could have played there. And I know that's nitpicky. I know that's dumb.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I think it's the biggest thing. I think I saw behind, down, and distance not being played. I think it might be the biggest thing of the weekend from that presentation point. It's not yours. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like you've got the white. I mean, it's like everybody here mocking the white, mocking other people's color outs and whatever else. Oh, yeah. So what? You did Scarlet. Oh, well, that's right. That's ours. We do it well. Jump around's theirs. I don't think it's the most wonderful thing ever, but it's theirs and they own it and they do it well. And I'd love to see it in person someday. So let's just let them have that.
As somebody who has seen it in person, Steve, I will tell you, it is the number of if you remove Penn State traditions from the equation, it's number one. I would put number two the Michigan banner touch. Anyways,
okay.
So
there's another reason
you have that. It is worth 100. Like if you're just ever in Wisconsin on a Saturday and there happens to be a football game, go to the football game for the third quarter, in between the third and fourth quarter. It is the most electric, coolest thing ever. The whole place.
Exactly why it shouldn't happen at Beaver Stadium.
And that is I'm very animated today. Very animated today. I feel like we harped on the negative. There was some good. Like I said, pregame flow felt good. They corrected the microphone issues that were happening at the beginning of the game. It was a little hard to hear in the first quarter, and it seemed like the sound picked up as the game went on. Okay. That was good. There were a lot of new graphics. A couple of people that I've talked to were complaining about replays. I thought there were a decent number of replays. I will say, kind of going back to your point, the vacuum thing. You want to see, like it where I sit, especially, it's very hard to see how Sander missed those kicks. I get it. You don't want to shame the kid, but it is a real thing that happened. Show us one replay of it. Like it doesn't need to be the 20 replays that tend to happen. Show us that. It's a part of the game. It was at that point in the game the biggest moment in the game, and we want to see it. I will say one more gripey thing. I felt like there was only, and maybe this is because we're trying to sell T-shirts that have Play Zombie Nation on them. That's one if you're counting at home. But I felt like it was a little hit or miss, and like it should be after touch. It should be like a goal song in hockey. Like after touchdowns, you play that immediately, then you go to victory from the blue band. Like every time. Like let's get consistent with it. Maybe and maybe on turnovers as well. I think that would be the other time to play it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, sorry, stammering there. The consistency thing, whether it's with all of that is what bugs me. I mean, it's almost as if the fans aren't someone that's making these decisions and working on their script and pressing their buttons and sticking their finger to the wind to see what they think is going to happen with the fan mood, believes they're smarter than the 107,000 people who paid to be there. 107,000 people came for an experience. They know what that includes. And if it's hearing those songs 12 times because there's 5 turnovers and 7 touchdowns, they're okay with that.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they came for. You don't need to break it up. You don't need to be consistent. Go ahead and put it on repeat for those kinds of things. And I think they think they're smarter and, oh, we'll keep it fresh. We'll do this. Doesn't need to be fresh. Just needs to be good. Just needs to be know what we're getting for and what we signed up for. And I think that's the challenge. Plus there's the challenge of, again, somebody out with this week's the dominoes change, I'm sure, with Rodney not being there in terms of some of the assignments. And then the other stuff with you got students, I'm sure, operating some boards and doing some things, but they practiced. They had at least 2 practice rounds that we know they had of, let alone other ones. So there's not as much of an excuse for that. I don't think they had a chance to practice,
No, I mean, we know they practice. I can hear people's voices when you sleep out at Nittanyville during the day. You will hear them practicing and running through touchdown Penn State and then Zombie Nation button.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, unlike